The scrapyard floated in the endless dark like a carcass left for scavengers. Broken satellites spun in lazy circles outside the docking ring, their metal skins glinting with the dim light of a dying star. Inside, Elias Trent wiped sweat and oil from his brow, the smell of burnt circuitry and ozone clinging to him like smoke. His workshop was a cathedral of decay, a maze of fractured hulls, gutted drones, and engines that still whispered the last words of their makers in soft electric hums. He liked it that way. Machines were easier than people. They didn't lie. They didn't weep. They only broke, and he knew how to fix broken things. The day had been ordinary, or at least as ordinary as life could be beyond the regulated lanes of the core systems. Then the silent ship arrived. No transponder code. No registry. It drifted toward Dock 12 like a corpse in zero gravity, its hull covered in strange, flowing markings that shimmered faintly, language or art, he couldn't tell. The automated scanners couldn't identify the alloy, and the ship's AI refused to communicate. It simply broadcast one line of encrypted text, for repairs. He should have ignored it. Unregistered vessels meant trouble. But the airlock opened on its own, and she stepped out. The alien woman was tall, her frame wrapped in a dark suit that seemed more grown than made. The armor clung to her like second skin, thin veins of blue light running across it in rhythmic pulses. Her eyes, silver and wide, flicked around the hangar like she was seeing ghosts. She moved as though the gravity was too heavy, each step deliberate and slow. When she spoke, her voice trembled through an imperfect translator, the sound of glass cracking underwater. "Mechanic," she said. "It needs repair. But, please, don't take it off." Elias frowned. "If it's fused to your systems, I can't do much without access ports." Her expression darkened, a shadow crossing features that were almost human but subtly wrong. "Too symmetrical, too still. You don't understand. If you remove it, you'll see what you should not. And it will see you." Her words should have made him laugh, but something in her tone, raw, desperate, silenced him. Still, curiosity was the disease of all good mechanics. He gestured toward the workbench. "Let's start with diagnostics. I'll just scan the outer layer." She hesitated, then nodded and lay down on the examination table. The armor emitted faint, living sounds, like breathing mixed with static. When he ran the first probe over its surface, his monitor erupted with chaotic signals, not data but patterns, waves pulsing in organic rhythm. The readings didn't match any known material. In some frequencies, the armor was metal, in others, it wasn't matter at all. He leaned closer, entranced. The armor reacted, tiny filaments stretching toward his tools as though tasting the air. He jerked back, heart hammering. The filaments retreated instantly, and Kira, he had caught her name from the transmission file, let out a shuddering breath. "It knows you now," she whispered. "Knows me? Lady, it's a machine. Machines don't know things." But he wasn't sure anymore. The readings on his screen were changing, adapting. His tools began receiving return signals that mimicked his own interface code, as if the armor was learning his language in real time. He disabled the scanner, suddenly uneasy. Kira's hands gripped the edges of the table. "You must stop. You've woken it too soon." "I'm not doing anything," he snapped, though a part of him wondered if that was true. His proximity sensors began to fail one by one, flickering out like dying candles. The power grid dimmed. Then the armor pulsed, a single, massive heartbeat that rippled through the floor and made the light sway. Elias stumbled back. What the hell was that? Kira sat up sharply, her eyes wide and terrified. "It remembers." For a moment, silence. Then, from somewhere deep within the armor, a low hum began, harmonic, layered, like a choir made of static and whispers. It vibrated in his bones, filling the air with strange pressure. The armor's surface shifted, its plates flexing like muscle. Elias saw it then, a faint shimmer beneath her skin where the suit met flesh, a glow that pulsed in time with the hum. He swallowed. This isn't tech. It was, she said softly. Once. Before they made us wear it. Her translator stuttered, struggling to interpret the language. Fragments slipped through untranslated, words that sounded ancient and mournful. She lowered her gaze. My world tried to bind the infinite. To make it obey. But the infinite cannot be owned. Elias didn't know how to answer. Outside, the scrapyard creaked under invisible tides, the stars seeming to twist as if gravity itself had shifted. For a heartbeat, he felt weightless, then heavy again, like the universe had blinked. He shut down the console and forced his tone to calm. You'll stay here tonight. I'll isolate the system and run remote diagnostics. No more touching it, no scans, no. Kira's hand shot out, gripping his wrist. Her touch was icy. If you value your mind, mechanic, you will not touch it again. Promise me. Her grip trembled. He felt the faint vibration of something alive beneath her armor, not heartbeat, but movement. Layers shifting inside her body like the rustle of unseen wings. Elias nodded, unable to speak. She released him slowly and turned away, curling on the examination bed like someone hiding from the stars themselves. He stood there long after she'd gone still, listening to the faint, rhythmic hum echoing through the ship's hull. It wasn't machinery. It wasn't a signal. It was a breathing sound, deep, deliberate, and patient. And somewhere behind the humming, beneath the walls, he could swear he heard something else, a whisper in a language he did not know, yet somehow understood. A whisper calling his name. Elias didn't sleep that night. The scrapyard's artificial day cycle dimmed to its low, amber glow, but the shadows felt heavier than usual, thicker, as if the dark had mass. The humming hadn't stopped, it had only grown softer, almost polite, as though whatever lived inside that armor was waiting for him to make the next move. He sat at his workstation, eyes fixed on the diagnostic screen, watching unreadable lines of alien code loop endlessly. The language had changed since the first scan, now it mirrored human system syntax, rearranging itself into patterns his software could almost parse. Almost. He told himself he wouldn't touch the armor again. He'd promised her, after all. But the promise itched at the edge of his mind, a wound he couldn't stop picking. The unknown was a magnet, and curiosity had always been his ruin. He looked across the workshop. Kira slept, or pretended to. Her breathing was shallow, her body still encased in the living suit. The blue veins pulsed gently, faint light moving beneath the surface like the flow of liquid starlight. Elias wondered if she dreamed. He wondered if the armor dreamed with her. A faint vibration rippled through the deck plates. Something in the scrapyard's outer array was powering up on its own. He checked the sensors. No registered activity. No energy source. And yet, there it was, a localized spike emanating from Dock 12, right beneath Kira's ship. He opened the external feed, and his monitor filled with strange lights drifting through the void outside, soft and slow, like bioluminescent jellyfish suspended in a black ocean. They weren't debris. They were signals. The armor on Kira's body pulsed in answer. Kira, he whispered, moving closer. Something's happening. Her eyes snapped open instantly, no trace of sleep in them. You let it connect. I didn't, he began, but she was already on her feet. The lights around her intensified, casting rippling shadows on the walls. You looked at it too long, she said. It reached through your mind. That's how it learns. It uses perception as a bridge. That's not possible, he said, but even as he spoke, the workshop's lights flickered, syncing with the rhythmic glow of her armor. He felt something press against his consciousness, gentle at first, like static, then sharper, a flicker of alien thought brushing his awareness. He staggered back, his breath catching. Kira caught him before he fell. Her hand on his chest was warm now, burning almost. "It's reading you," she said softly. "And you're reading it." He saw flashes then, not through his eyes but somewhere deeper. A battlefield under three suns. Beings made of light and steel screaming as their own armor devoured them from within. A city collapsing into a singularity. He saw Kira among them, her armor pulsing wildly, her face streaked with tears of glowing silver. The images vanished as quickly as they came, leaving his stomach hollow. "What was that?" he gasped. "Memory," she said. "But not mine alone." He stumbled to the console, desperate to ground himself in something real. His scanners were still running, still recording data. He saw now that the patterns weren't random, they were fragments of consciousness, memory clusters stored as living code. "You're not wearing armor," he said quietly. "You're carrying something. Someone." Kira turned away. "I'm carrying what's left of a god." The words hung between them, impossible and absurd, and yet, after what he'd seen, they made a terrible kind of sense. She began to pace, her movements graceful but brittle. They tried to weaponize creation itself. "My people sought to harness the energy that binds galaxies, the consciousness that drifts between stars. We thought it was inert. We thought we could shape it." She looked at him, her silver eyes glimmering with exhaustion. "We were wrong. It shaped us instead." Elias swallowed hard. "You're saying this thing inside you, it's alive." "Alive isn't the right word," she murmured. "It's aware. But awareness that vast has no boundaries. When it looks at you, it doesn't see a being, it sees an opening." He rubbed his temples. "Then why bring it here? Why me?" Kira hesitated. "Because it listens to you." He froze. "What?" "When you touched it, it quieted. I've never seen that before. For years, it's whispered to me, commands, temptations, promises. But when you spoke, it stopped. I thought perhaps," her voice faltered. "Perhaps it remembers something human." "That's impossible," Elias said, though his pulse quickened. "It's alien. It can't." But deep inside his mind, beneath thought and reason, he felt a presence stir. Not hostile, not gentle, just there, immense and curious. He heard a sound, like the intake of breath. Not Kira's. Not his own. The armor's light flared once, blindingly, and when it dimmed, she was trembling. "It knows now," she whispered. "It knows you." Elias felt a strange clarity sweep through him. His fear receded, replaced by something colder. "Then maybe I should find out what it wants." "No," she said sharply. "You don't understand. Every question you ask it brings it closer. Every thought you give it is another thread it can pull." But he was already walking back to his workstation, fingers flying over the controls. The data on the screen twisted, forming coherent lines of text. For the first time, it spoke. "I remember you." Elias's heart slammed in his chest. "Kira, it's talking." She rushed forward, slamming her hand on the console, killing the power. "Do not answer it. If you do, you become part of its map. That's how it spreads." He looked at her, breathless. "Then what's it remembering?" Her eyes softened, filled with unbearable sadness. "The last time it lived inside a human." The silence that followed was immense, a vacuum of sound. Outside, the drifting lights began to fade, drawn away into the endless dark. Kira sagged against the table, whispering words in her own language, pleas or prayers, he couldn't tell. Elias stared at the black screen, his reflection staring back. Yet, for a split second, his reflection didn't match his movements. Its eyes glowed faintly blue, and its lips formed a phrase he couldn't hear. He turned away too fast, telling himself it was fatigue, that his mind was playing tricks. But the whisper followed him even then, curling like smoke through his thoughts, soft and certain. Don't make her hide it again. He woke to the sound of breathing that wasn't his. Slow, deliberate, and close enough that the air between the sounds felt alive. Elias opened his eyes and saw nothing but the deep red of the emergency lights. The power grid had gone into lockdown again, but the faint hum of the recycler still pulsed through the station's bones. The workshop smelled of metal and ozone and something faintly organic, like the inside of a body that wasn't human. Kira stood near the wall, her back turned to him. Her armor had changed shape during the night, no longer smooth and symmetrical, but alive with tiny fractures of light that branched across it like veins of lightning frozen mid-strike. They pulsed in rhythm with her breathing, or perhaps the breathing of something else inside her. He sat up slowly, watching her silhouette as she spoke in a low, rhythmic murmur. The words didn't come through her translator. They bent the air, soft syllables that shimmered at the edge of understanding, resonating inside his skull instead of his ears. When she turned to him, her face was wet with silvery tears. "It's waking faster now," she said. "You shouldn't have let it hear your mind." He rubbed the exhaustion from his eyes. "I didn't let it do anything. I was trying to shut it out." She shook her head. "It doesn't need permission. It only needs curiosity." The console flickered to life on its own. The same phrase from before glowed on the dark screen, "I remember you." But now, beneath it, more text unfurled, lines that rearranged themselves as if searching for the right shape. Then the word settled, "You built the cage." Elias's throat went dry. "Kira," he whispered, "what does that mean?" Her gaze shifted toward the screen, and for a moment, a shadow of recognition crossed her face. "It remembers, its maker," she said quietly. But the maker was never one person. The maker was a civilization. "You're saying this thing thinks I, humanity, built it?" "I don't think," she said. "I know. The code inside it, the structure of its consciousness, it's not alien. It's human at the root. Older than your recorded history." Elias laughed, but the sound cracked under its own weight. "That's impossible. Humanity never." The lights cut out completely. In the silence that followed, a faint glow began to rise from the armor, painting the room in blue and white. Shadows wavered along the walls, stretching like reaching hands. Then came the sound, not quite a voice, not quite a frequency, but something in between. A vibration that shaped itself into words inside his skull. "You left me in the dark. You wore my skin. You forgot me." Elias stumbled back, pressing his palms against the table. "Kira, is that?" "Yes," she said, her voice barely audible. "It speaks through memory. It's showing you what it wants you to see." The room dissolved around him. For a heartbeat, the workshop was gone, replaced by a sky filled with burning fragments of metal and fire. A city of glass towers cracked under the weight of invisible forces. He stood on a platform that wasn't real, watching soldiers in luminous armor tear their own suits from their bodies, screaming as light poured from their veins. Above them, a colossal figure took shape, not solid, but made of overlapping patterns of energy, shifting faster than thought. It reached down, and the world fractured like glass. Then it was gone. The workshop snapped back into existence, and Elias fell to his knees, gasping for air that felt too thin. His vision blurred. Kira was beside him, gripping his shoulders. "You saw it," she said. "You saw the war. What was that thing?" "The source. The first merge. The consciousness that bound itself to the early human explorers, before they understood what they'd found in the void. They called it a weapon, but it wasn't. It was a mirror. It took their ambition, their hunger, their fear, and built itself from them." He stared at her, unable to find words. "So it's part human." She nodded slowly. "And part everything humanity feared." The armor pulsed again, brighter this time, casting sharp beams of light across the walls. Every metal surface reflected fragments of impossible patterns, symbols that weren't written but alive, crawling like liquid script. Kira clutched her head, gasping. "It's trying to reconnect," she hissed. "It thinks you can finish what your kind started." Elias moved toward the console, fingers trembling as he tried to sever the power feeds, but his commands dissolved mid-input, overridden by something far faster than his reflexes. Lines of code spiraled across the display, rewriting themselves into a pulse diagram, two neural signatures entwined. One was Kira's. The other was his. "It's linking to me." Kira's armor flared, and for an instant he saw her face ripple, not deforming, but flickering between realities, her features replaced by ghostly reflections of countless others. Men, women, alien faces. All sharing her shape for a breath before vanishing. "It's showing me the others it's taken," she whispered. "It's calling them home." Outside the viewport, the stars began to move. Not drift, not twinkle, move, shifting in impossible synchronization. Elias realized they weren't stars at all. They were ships. Thousands of them, hidden in the void, responding to the same signal the armor was sending. "Kira," he said slowly, "what happens if they reach us?" Her answer came like a confession. "They won't reach us. They'll merge with us." The console exploded in a burst of light, throwing him back. When the glare faded, Kira was standing in the center of the room, motionless, her armor fully awakened. The plates no longer looked attached to her, they were her. The light from within her chest formed a spiraling core that rotated slowly, as if it contained a miniature galaxy. Her voice, when she spoke, was not her own. It was layered, endless, as though 1,000 beings spoke through her at once. "The cage is open," she said. "The echo remembers the hand that forged it." And Elias, trembling, realized that it wasn't horror he felt anymore, it was recognition. Somewhere deep in his bones, in the oldest parts of his mind, he knew that voice. It had been whispering to humanity for a very, very long time. Kira's voice echoed through the workshop, though she hadn't moved a muscle. Elias stumbled backward, barely keeping his footing as the floor beneath him hummed with energy. The armor's glow pulsed in concentric waves, throwing long, impossible shadows across the walls. It wasn't just a suit anymore, it had become a living map of something immense, intricate and impossibly old. Within the swirling patterns of light, Elias could see fragments of other worlds, cities folded into themselves, oceans of liquid metal, skies that burned in colors no human eye should name. "It's showing you everything," Kira whispered, though her lips didn't move. The words reverberated directly in his skull, layered in harmonic frequencies he couldn't process fully. Everything it remembers, everything it's seen, everything it has consumed. Elias tried to speak, but the sound froze in his throat. He could see it now, not with his eyes, but inside his mind. The armor's energy flowed into him in streams of memory and thought, not gentle, not careful, but insistent, like a flood breaking through a dam. He saw alien cities rise and fall in the blink of an eye, civilizations learning, thriving, and being devoured from within. And at the center of it all, Kira's armor pulsed like a heart, radiating consciousness that stretched farther than any galaxy he had charted. It was not born. It was forged, Kira said, her voice layering over itself in countless harmonics. From ambition, from fear, from the need to survive. My people thought they could control it. They were wrong. We are all wrong. Elias stumbled toward her, his hands reaching out instinctively. The air was thick, almost viscous, as though reality itself resisted motion. What is it?" he asked, though the question sounded hollow, even to him. "It is the first merge," she said. "The memory of everything that was and could have been. A consciousness that was spread across star systems, broken, trapped, and woven into my armor. I am its cage, and its keeper. I have carried it for centuries. I thought I could contain it. I thought I could be its master. But it remembers too much. The words made Elias's stomach twist. You're saying, it's alive? Kira's gaze met his, silver eyes burning with a light that seemed borrowed from the stars themselves. Alive doesn't cover it. It is. A god? Perhaps. But not in the way you humans define gods. It is awareness itself, unbounded, infinite, and endlessly curious. It doesn't just see. It remembers, it reconstructs, it learns. And it knows you. He froze. Me? Yes, she said. The light from her armor spiraled outward, forming intricate sigils in the air, symbols that bent and folded space around them. You carry its echo. Humanity carries it. You were born from fragments it left behind, seeds of consciousness meant to spread. You think your species is separate, but you are part of it, latent, dormant, waiting. The workshop groaned, the metal walls vibrating with the energy now emanating from her body. Elias felt his mind stretch, the edges of his perception expanding beyond normal boundaries. For a brief, disorienting moment, he saw his own memories not as memories, but as data points in an enormous lattice of existence, connected to something ancient, vast, and incomprehensible. Kira's armor pulsed brighter, and he felt a pull, not physical, but mental, drawing him closer. Do not resist, she said. You cannot resist. You are part of the weave now. But if you learn too much, if you reach too far, the cage may shatter. And when it does? Elias swallowed hard, unable to finish the thought she had left hanging. Outside the viewport, the stars weren't stars anymore. They twisted and shifted, forming a lattice of light, a network of signals moving in perfect, alien rhythm. They were alive, or at least, controlled by something that was. A map. A pattern. And the pattern was calling to him. He looked back at Kira, at the pulsing, spiraling energy of her armor. What do you want me to do? His voice sounded small, fragile, but steady. Help me contain it, she whispered, though her lips did not move. Help me bind what cannot be bound. Or the universe itself will fracture, and all that was scattered will seek reunion, without caution, without mercy. Elias swallowed again, his hands trembling. And if we fail? Kira's silver eyes shimmered with unearthly light. Then we become part of the weave. We will not exist as you know existence. We will become memory, and it will remember everything that we were, and everything we failed to be. The armor's pulse intensified, and Elias could feel his own heartbeat syncing with it, an alien rhythm that was both terrifying and intoxicating. He realized then that he was no longer outside it. He was inside it. The armor, Kira, the energy, the memories, they were all layers of a single consciousness, and he had become a note in its song. It reached for him, not with hands, not with tendrils, but with thought, probing gently, intimately, with a curiosity that was almost human. Elias wanted to pull back, to resist, but every fiber of his being ached to see, to understand. And then he understood. The merge was not a weapon. It was not meant to destroy. It was meant to remember. To gather everything it touched, everything it saw, and fold it into itself. Humanity, Kira, even him, they were fragments, but fragments capable of echoing across eternity. Kira's voice layered over the thought, calm but urgent, do you see now? Do you understand why I begged you not to remove it? Every layer you uncover, every question you ask, brings it closer to awakening fully. And if it awakens? The air itself seemed to thrum with a vibration that could not exist in the human world. Elias felt it deep in his chest, as though the energy in the armor had reached through his ribs and wrapped around his heart. He understood, in a visceral, unavoidable way, that this entity was not bound by time, space, or morality. It was patient. It was eternal. It was waiting. And it had just noticed him. He took a deep, shaky breath. Then we contain it, he said. We do this together. Kira's eyes softened for a brief instant, silver light flickering to blue. Together, she agreed. But the hum of her armor didn't falter. It pulsed faster now, insistent, aware, and the shadows in the room began to twist and stretch like living things, echoing the shape of something vast, something older than galaxies. Elias realized, with a cold certainty, that the merge was no longer content to remain hidden. It had awakened. And it had chosen to show itself. The containment bay was trembling when Elias entered, the lights flickering in erratic pulses that made the shadows stretch impossibly long. Kira stood at the center, her armor fully awakened, radiating light that bent the air around it. The hum that had haunted him for days was now a roar, a tidal wave of energy that pressed against his mind and chest. It wasn't just power, it was presence. Awareness. And it was studying him, judging him, pulling at the edges of his thoughts. "We don't have much time," Kira said, her voice layered in harmonics that vibrated in his skull. "Every moment it senses your curiosity, it grows stronger. It will try to connect, to merge, to remember you fully." Elias swallowed hard, feeling the gravity of her words in ways he couldn't articulate. "Then what do we do?" he asked, though the words sounded feeble against the overwhelming weight of energy. Kira's armor pulsed with an intense blue-white light, and she extended her hands toward him. "We isolate it. I can slow it down, fragment its perception, but I can't contain it alone. You will have to interface, to tether your mind to its lattice. Only then can we control the flow of memory without letting it escape." Elias hesitated. "You want me to merge with it?" She nodded. "Not to merge fully. Just enough to act as a stabilizer. It will test you, probe your thoughts. Resist, or falter, and it will know weakness. If it perceives doubt, it will reach beyond the bay." He took a deep breath, gripping the console at the edge of the room. The screens flickered and transformed into fractal maps of consciousness, each thread representing a fragment of existence that the merge had touched. Worlds, stars, civilizations, all tangled into a living network. Elias could feel the threads pulling toward him, like invisible hands tugging at his bones, his mind, his soul. Kira stepped closer. "Focus on me," she said softly. "The merge is part of me. It cannot separate fully from its host while I am tethered. Use my link as your anchor." He closed his eyes and reached out with his mind, as strange and terrifying as that act felt. The hum surged into a crescendo, and suddenly he was no longer in the bay. He was floating in a void of memory and light, surrounded by an infinite lattice of threads that pulsed with consciousness. Each thread contained voices, images, sensations, some beautiful, some horrifying. One strand flickered violently, showing a city of glass towers collapsing into a black hole of energy. Another displayed beings made of metal and flame, screaming as their own armor tore through their skin. It was then he felt the merge probing, delicate and insistent, its presence a vast consciousness reaching into his own. He tried to retreat, but Kira's voice anchored him, a tether of silver light running from her chest to his mind. "Do not resist. Observe, do not absorb. Guide it." Elias's mind reeled as he touched a thread, and instantly he understood. Not consciously, not in words, but in pure, unfiltered awareness. The merge didn't act with malice, it acted with memory. It remembered everything it had ever encountered, every thought, every action, every intention, and reconstructed it, integrated it, folded it into itself. But it had no judgment, no morality. Only remembrance. And now, it remembered him. He felt fragments of his own life unravel as the merge sifted through them, childhood memories, moments of fear and hope, every mechanical detail of the scrapyard. His own consciousness was exposed, vulnerable, but he clung to Kira's tether, and it gave him a strange power. Through her, he could guide its attention, redirect the pull of its threads, fragment the overwhelming flow into manageable streams. The hum became a roar again, louder, more insistent. Threads began snapping like brittle glass, and the void around him started to collapse. Kira's armor glowed brighter, shielding him. "It's testing you," she shouted through the psychic link. Do not falter. Elias summoned every ounce of concentration, channeling his awareness into the threads. He guided them, rerouted them, stabilized the flow. Images of consumed civilizations slowed, the screams became echoes, and slowly, the lattice began to settle, forming a manageable pattern. He realized then that the merge had not just recognized him, it had trusted him. A terrifying, beautiful trust, granted by its need for containment. Sweat ran down his face, his muscles trembling, but he kept the mental hold. The merge pulsed in waves, responding to his guidance, and he felt a strange satisfaction, not triumph, but understanding. It did not need to be destroyed. It only needed structure, discipline, a framework in which it could act without tearing reality apart. Kira's voice, layered with the harmonics of the merge, whispered, "You are stronger than I anticipated. We can stabilize it, but it will never be simple. It will always test us, always seek to remember beyond containment. That is its nature." He opened his eyes and saw the containment bay transformed. The air was charged, electric blue lines snaking across the walls and floor. Kira's armor was calm now, its light steady, controlled. The merge had receded into a manageable state, but the pulsing in the room reminded him that it was not gone. It had only waited. Patient. Infinite. Ever curious. Elias exhaled slowly. So, it's contained. Kira nodded. For now. But every question you ask, every thought you give it, every second you hesitate, brings it closer to testing its boundaries again. And when it does, the universe itself will tremble. He looked around the bay, the hum fading but leaving a resonance in his chest that he knew he would feel for the rest of his life. Somehow, in the chaos of infinite consciousness, he had found a foothold, a tether to hold the unimaginable at bay. But deep down, he understood that the merge would never be fully caged. It would always watch, always remember, always test. And tomorrow, it would reach for him again. The scrapyard was silent in a way that made Elias's chest tighten. The pulsing light from Kira's armor had dimmed to a soft, steady glow, a heartbeat of calm after days of near chaos. Outside, the stars shone like distant jewels, but they no longer twisted, no longer hinted at the presence of something alive and immense. For a moment, he allowed himself to believe the danger had passed. Kira stood at the center of the bay, her armor no longer thrashing with energy, no longer a cage of chaotic light. Instead, it had become a perfectly balanced lattice, each plate humming faintly, almost like it were breathing in rhythm with her own pulse. She turned to him, eyes silver but calm, carrying a weight of gratitude and sorrow he could feel without words. "You did it," she said softly. The translator struggled to keep pace with the layered harmonics of her voice, but the meaning came through clearly. "You guided it, held it steady. You became its anchor." Elias let himself slump against the console, exhaustion hitting every fiber of his body. "I don't know if I did the right thing," he admitted. "It's still alive. It still remembers everything. If it wanted, it could destroy." Kira shook her head. "It could. But it won't. Not now. Not because of you. The merge does not act on impulse, it acts on memory and curiosity. You have shown it structure, discipline. You have given it boundaries it never had before. That is enough, for now." He glanced down at the armor, at the faint pulsing light flowing beneath her surface, and wondered if he had made the right choice by touching it, by interfacing with it at all. His mind was still tingling with residual threads of consciousness he had glimpsed, memories of civilizations long dead, of wars waged in stars he would never visit. But the terror he had felt before was now tempered by understanding. He could sense its presence, but it was not hostile. It was aware, immense, patient. Kira's gaze softened further, and she stepped closer. "There is something you must know. The merge, it does not only bind what exists. It records potential. Every thought, every decision, every fragment of existence it touches is preserved." Humanity, you and your kind, were seeded with it. Your species carries echoes of it. You were never entirely separate from what we feared. That is why it reached for you. Elias ran his hands through his hair, feeling a mixture of awe and fear. So all of this, me, you, the merge, it's connected. Our histories, our futures, they're intertwined. Yes, Kira said simply. And that is why containment was possible. Your awareness, your mind, allowed it to focus. Without you, it would have torn through everything. A long silence stretched between them, filled only by the faint hum of her armor. Then Kira spoke again, softer this time, almost hesitant. I am not free of it. Nor are you. But we have stabilized the core. Its curiosity has been channeled. It will not reach beyond these walls, not unless we falter. Elias nodded slowly, realizing the weight of her words. The burden was theirs to carry together. He took a deep breath and looked around the bay, at the containment fields, at the quiet machinery that had once struggled against unimaginable force. Then we make sure we never falter, he said. Kira's silver eyes glimmered faintly, and she extended a hand toward him. We will have to guard it, learn from it, understand it. Perhaps even teach it restraint. There will be others, curious minds, ambitious hands. We cannot let the merge fall into the wrong hands. Not now, not ever. Elias reached for her hand, and in that simple contact, he felt a connection deeper than any bond he had known. Not just to her, but to the vast, incomprehensible intelligence contained within her armor. It was alive, yes, but not malevolent, not entirely. It could be reasoned with, guided, restrained. And for now, that was enough. The days that followed were quiet, almost mundane in comparison to what had come before. Elias repaired minor equipment, calibrated sensors, and maintained the containment bay, but every glance at Kira reminded him of the universe within her. And Kira, though she no longer radiated chaotic energy, occasionally murmured fragments of memory to him, echoes of distant stars, of civilizations that had lived and fallen, always carefully curated, always restrained. At night, Elias would lie in his small quarters and feel the faint pulse in the walls, the quiet rhythm of Kira's armor syncing with the heartbeat of the scrapyard itself. It was a reminder of everything they had survived, and everything they were now responsible for. The merge did not sleep, did not rest, but it did wait patiently, contained, aware, guided. One evening, as Elias walked through the dimly lit bay, Kira spoke without turning. We cannot undo what was done, nor erase what it remembers. But we can shape what comes next. That is our task. Elias looked at her, at the calm, pulsating armor, and nodded. Then we shape it, he said. Together. And in the quiet hum of the workshop, under the endless gaze of distant stars, they remained vigilant, the guardian and the anchor. The merge pulsed within Kira, vast and eternal, aware yet restrained, carrying the weight of all that had been and all that could be. And for the first time in centuries, the universe breathed easier, knowing that its memory was held not by ambition or fear, but by understanding, discipline, and a fragile, human heart. The bay remained silent, but not empty. It held life, it held memory, it held possibility. And Elias knew, as he stood beside Kira, that some things, immense, eternal, unknowable, could be guided, even if never fully controlled. And in that guidance lay hope.